Keith here again. Haven't videoed for a little while because I haven't had an awful lot to video. I've not done any repottings or anything like that. I am trying to make a little bit of space. I managed to sell a couple of cakeys at the Orchid Society meeting yesterday. I did manage to resist a couple of other little Vandas which were going at a ridiculous price of £8 each, because I simply don't have the room. And when I'm having problems at the moment, I've had to take things off the kitchen windowsill and put them onto the big rack in the background because they were just getting too close to the glass, and I think it was affecting them. In fact, one plant, I've lost a bud. It's blasted. It didn't touch the window, but it got cold enough to damage the bud. So that was the first indication I needed to start moving things. I've done that to a couple of the bigger plants now. But anyway, no, I didn't buy any Vandas, but I did buy a couple of Pleione bulbs. We had two talks yesterday, one by our president talking about how he got involved in growing orchids and how he was on the RHS committees for a very long time, and someone who'd actually been in the East Midlands Orchid Society right from day one, and he's the only one we've got left, a chap called Richard Evenden, who used to grow Pleiones commercially, and he still grows quite a lot, and he got a few bulbs to get rid of, and he certainly can grow them. He'd got seed trays that were absolutely rammed with them, completely rammed with bulbs, and he showed us what you're supposed to do, and thankfully what I did the other day with mine was pretty much okay. These though are one of those oddball Pleiones. This is Pleione Barcena, Barcena. It's a primary cross. The pod parent was Pleione formosana, and the pollen parent is Pleione praecox. Now, formosana is absolutely standard. You would grow that as I've grown all my others. Praecox is an autumn flowering one. It flowers around Christmas, according to Richard. So, and excuse me, Barcena, which was registered in 1982, has followed the autumn trend. So these actually, according to Richard, are much easier to grow than the more common types because they don't need that winter rest. They grow, he tells me, in exactly the same way that the others do. They flower, they put a leaf or leaves up, and then they grow until the autumn, and they drop the leaves and everything goes quiet, and then you unpot them, dry them off a little bit, just trim them up, and as soon as you see root nubbins, now I don't know whether you can see this very well, I hope you can, but down on the base, especially these two, you can see little white dots, and those are what you might call proto-roots starting to emerge. And according to Richard, when you see those, that's when these need potting up, and you pot them up in exactly the same way as you would pot any other of this type. Now, these are quite a big pseudo bulb. That is a 3.5 inch pot. Not sure what that one is, a little bit bigger. But I'm sure you can see that if I do what you'd normally do with an orchid and put off to one side so that any new growths have got room to expand into the space, and these three should all produce a pseudo bulb as big as that, plus there might well be some bulblets form off the top of this one, then all the growth is going to come out this way. So this is going to have to go in one side of that pot and go from there. This one is has got 3 nubs as well. It's very slightly smaller, but I'm going to have to do the same with that. Now, one thing that Richard was really insistent on was you've got to keep them well drained. Now, this is clearly important when it comes to winter, because as soon as these things put roots down, you've got to start watering. And these things like water, so you've got to be very, very sure that you're not going to get them too wet and lose the roots, because peonies do not regrow roots. They don't branch their roots. You get 1 root per nodule, and if they go, it's pop. That bulb is finished. You won't get any new growths, you won't get any new bulbs, so it's something to be careful of. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to grow these in these pots, I'm going to put quite a deep layer. About half the pot is going to have this medium bark from Burnham's in the bottom. I think that'll do. Now the rest of it, I'm going to use Burnham's seedling mix, which I found worked very well with my peonies last year. Now it's not what Richard uses. Richard uses a lot of sphagnum moss, but I've had good results with this. And when I chatted to him, he said, if you've got something that works for you, then stick with it. Don't try and experiment on something that you're not sure what you're doing. And I think that's good advice. We all have slightly different conditions. Richard's growing in a greenhouse. I'm growing in our conservatory, which is likely to be quite considerably warmer. So what I'm going to do is what I did with the others, and I'm going to stick them on the floor, down by the doors out of the conservatory and quite close to the glass. And the idea of that is that they'll stay as cool as I can get them. A bit like, I know Roger has Mazda Valleys and what have you, really low down on his rack, and I've got the same sort of principle in mind. Now, what it says in all the blurb is you don't plant these ever so deep. You don't want them all that deep. You don't want to cover the bulbs very far. You don't want, if you've got new growths, you don't want to swamp them. So I'm just going to put this stuff in and make absolutely sure that the tips of those growths are okay. Now I've tried as best I can to stabilise that using the old roots. It's going to be trickier on this one because they aren't as long, but we will do our best. Now there's a sheath on this new growth. I'm not going to go anywhere near that. I'm going to put this up in there in exactly the same way. And I've got 2 showing, and we know there's a 3rd in there, but I'm not going to do much more than that. Just very, very lightly put them in, almost resting on top of the stuff. I've seen it said you should plant them deeper. I didn't bother planting the peonies any deeper that I grew last year. It may be that they've done as well, if not better, if I had, but I'm going to treat this very carefully. Now, excuse me. The problem I've got, and it's always a problem with these blessed things, is they've got no roots. They need to have some moisture. they don't want a lot. They've got nothing to do with it. If you put too much moisture in there, what you'll get is rot instead. So the whole idea now is I'm going to put a very small amount of just plain rainwater on this, just to damp all this stuff. Run it around, make sure that it's going to drain okay, and then I'm just going to put it in the window and wait and see what happens. But if Richard's anything to go by, these things should start to grow very soon. He thought they could very well be in flower at Christmas, which would be nice. So I'm just going to water these, put them away. That's all it's going to be, just a very short video this time. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.